Welcome to the Spooky Chris podcast. I am the aforementioned Spooky Chris. I'm an author, filmmaker, occasional artist, and general ne'er-do-well. And this is my little podcast. As we round out the end of the year, it's funny, with another Marvel movie hitting theaters and, like a whole slate of them to come. It's interesting that one of the weird flexes that has not disappeared over these, I think that 10 years, 11 years, whatever, since the Marvel MCU started really getting going. You see the same kind of like flex from movie people over and over again. And even just the casual, like, I'll watch a movie kind of fans is I'm tired of superhero movies. Superhero movies are so boring. They're all the same. When are we going to be over? They're all like stupid. We've all kind of heard it, I think. And you may well be one that ascribes to that. And you know what? Good for you. The joy of opinions is that we all have them and they're all valid in their own way. What we fail to see is that we're in our opinions, we're awfully myopic in that, for me, I don't tend to like musicals. So part of me is like, all musicals are trash. Do I really believe that? Of course not. Because if I really look at the movies that I love, a lot of them are real close to musicals, even if they're not the cookie cutter standard of a musical. If music is the driving force, is the narrative force behind the film, it's a lot closer to a musical than it isn't. It's always funny when you get in, to horror fans or to, movie snobs and horror fans. Well, that's not horror. Or movie snobs, well, that isn't a horror film, that's a thriller. We cut hairs on so many things. And we do that with these Marvel movies and superhero movies in general. And part of it is still, it's weird because in my lifetime, it's gone from, comic book fans were the geeks in the basement. They had no lives, they had no friends, they were losers, they didn't live in reality. To now, major actors and actresses are involved in these films, big directors, they're winning awards, they're getting accolades. You'll see, you could go out to any kind of gathering of people and you will see in a short time some manner of emblem, symbol, something to denote one of these kind of superhero franchises. I would bet they've become ubiquitous. And it's funny that, in again, my lifetime, we've seen comic books go from shunned and hated to embraced when it came to the indie comics and the idea that you could tell moving stories and people of different backgrounds and varied lifestyles could tell their stories, and you can get more, there's more, you can do more in this forum. You saw kind of horror kind of really evolve. You've seen some great things done in comics and they really broke through, and then you saw more and more movies being made, and then the superhero comics, the mainstream broke through, and now they're no longer the punk rock darlings. They are the mainstream, and everyone, so many people hate them and they're so tired of them. But where we get to that myopism is the idea that all of these are the same. And what's been fun with Marvel and what Kevin Feige's done specifically is they are working to show how broad quote unquote superheroes can be. And you get that like with there's any number of things where you see The movie Super is a quote-unquote superhero movie, but it is a bleak black comedy about someone that's mentally ill. But it's a superhero movie. Mystery Men is a broad comedy, and these are superheroes, but they're not real super per se, and it's done ridiculously. You can get any types of things. What we are missing is that the superhero format is just a platform to tell any old kind of story. Much like you can use, you get this with horror a lot, as I, always hammer on that because I'm a horror person. But you get that with horror a lot with people that are like, oh, horror's all the same and it's stupid, and the movies are all slasher movies and naked girls and this and that. And then you list off, Hereditary, Babadook, all these different types of movies, Get Out, that are more contemplative. And it's, well, that's not really a horror movie, that's a thriller. Or, well, I guess. Or even you'll get, I didn't even like that, or I didn't even bother to see it, or it's just scary. You'll get any number of these answers as well. Because there's always some kind of a, yeah, but. Because again, it goes back to the, well, I hate all musicals. Well, except, Cannibal the Musical is a musical. It says it in the title. For me, Phantom of Paradise, it's a musical. Love it. There are movies that fall in the strictest guidelines, and I like them. You can say, oh, I hate all Westerns. Well, I get it, except the movie Bone Tomahawk is a Western. It's a horror Western. There are those as well. There's, all kinds of that's what's great. And that's where real storytelling comes in, is the art of taking that platform, the clay, and molding it into something you don't expect. Yes, Superman is Superman. Batman is Batman. Spider-Man is Spider-Man. Yes. But the hope is that you get more depth. It was interesting with the newest Superman iteration that they did something different with him. They gave him a rougher edge as he was learning what it meant to be a superhero, what it meant to have powers, and people hated it. They didn't like it. It's just like there are fans that they don't want their superheroes to change. They don't want a black James Bond. They don't want a woman James Bond. They want the white guy who's British and he's going to nail every woman he sees, We're stuck in our boxes. So a movie like Black Panther, which did so well and so many people loved, which told this story and had this unique setting and these unique characters and this world view and this idea and a villain that, while still a villain, and I'll never get the people that were kind of saying he was right, Killmonger was right. He had a point. And that's what you hope. Even, the villain Thanos had a point. And that's again where the craft comes in, is to humanize the villains and to demonize the superheroes, to show that they are not perfect. You can do anything with the platform of superheroes. And I loved all these movies, and I get a kick out of them. But I'm not going to say that they're all brilliant, that they're all immaculate, that, that we need more or whatever. I don't blame superhero movies for the lack of diversity in films. I blame companies that are letting themselves be gobbled up or gobbling up other companies, and then are just putting out product that is easy money. And they don't look at the long game. And sometimes that's what it is. That's, with art films and stuff. And in a modern world, you kind of have to. they look at, okay, what's the box office? What's the projected box office? What's the take home? What can we sell merch? What can we home release? Blah. They look at that, but there's all these things. How many movies, like take a movie like The Thing, 1982's The Thing. It came out. It was John Carpenter really, thought he had this great film he had done with these amazing actors. It came out, and it came out the year of E.T. And by the time it came out, people wanted nice, gentle, friendly aliens. They wanted E.T. They didn't want something that could shapeshift and steal your identity and, threaten the planet. They didn't want this doom and gloom, bleak movie. And the critics didn't want that either. So between the critics and the public, it took a drubbing. It's a heck of a thing to work, isn't it? Your phone goes off. But it took a drubbing and got beat up, and people considered it a failure and a flop. And Carpenter, I think to this day, I don't think he ever quite lived it down. And I think he earned that bitterness because he made a heck of a movie. And you don't have to like it, but there's also people who don't like E.T. I'm not an E.T. guy. I loved E.T. as a kid. I'm not an E.T. guy anymore. Again, my prerogative. But in saying that, that doesn't make me right or wrong. It just, we need choice. And time came back around, and now we can, we herald The Thing as a modern classic of horror. There's been iteration after iteration released on home video. There's merch, there's toys, there's art books, there's all this stuff. But it was one of those things like Universal already, they were done. Like the movie, they made the movie came out, they did their thing, and it was done. Had they not taken that risk, though, the future wouldn't have, we wouldn't have this modern classic. And there's movies like that. It's a Wonderful Life is another example of a movie that bombed, but that has become a classic. So it's not that superhero movies and all of that are bad at all. It's that the production studios are cowards, really. And you don't have to spend $100 million on every movie or $50 million on them. You can make amazing movies of any ilk, of any genre, with with a reasonable budget. I mean, it's all a lot to me. I'm broke, but it all doesn't have to cost $100 million. It all doesn't have to be huge and super expensive and crazy. And we forget that, and we lose sight of that. And, a lot of people blame the superhero films, that the Marvel movies, the DC movies specifically, for a glut. Oh, there's too many. We're all tired of superhero movies and blah, blah. But I mean, you can literally pick that out of any series. I'm tired of Fast and Furious movies. Am I right? No, because people love them. So who am I? I don't have to go watch them though. So that's all that matters. Like, I'm not forced to go watch them, so who cares? Make as many as you want. You're not forced to go watch Marvel movies, so don't go see them. And again, you can be mad that there's movies not being made when when Fox went to Disney. There's a ton of projects, interesting, like this stuff that you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that we lost this. Fell to the wayside because Disney doesn't have an interest in those projects. But that happens all the time. There's a great podcast, Best Movie Never Made, and they talk about films that went through the process and never made, or the version that came out is not the one that was intended. There's all a whole broad spectrum, but there's tons of those. There's tons of. Imagine how many books are out there that were pitched and never finished or never put out, or albums. How long did it take the Smile album to come out? Brian Wilson had to release that himself because when his time with the Beach Boys initially, like he couldn't figure it out. You can only get the Smile sessions, basically. This happens all the time. There's lots of projects that just don't come to fruition. Mountains of Madness, Del Toro's is a prime example. You can't blame the superhero movies. And again, looking at them and saying, oh, they're all the same is lazy, because they're not. Again, and again, that is looking at every genre and saying, well, they're all the same. There are great romance films. There are great mysteries. There are great dramas. There are great comedies. There are great period piece films. There are great documentaries. Any genre, any type of film, there is an example of a great one. And you don't have to acknowledge it. You can say, well, I don't think it's great. That's fine. That's fine for you. But you also don't get to set the rules for everyone else. For those of us that get a kick out of the superhero movies, that like them, let us enjoy them. Again, it's up to the companies to make more like a broader range of film. And honestly, they kind of are. It's just they're being dumped onto streaming services, which is a huge drag, or release direct to video. That's the problem, and COVID has not helped that at all. Is that what? And it's good and bad. It's bad in that a lot of these, if you're a filmmaker, your hope would always be, gosh, I can't wait to go and to see this at the theater, to see my name and my film playing at a theater. It's going to be great. And I totally get that. Much like I would love to see my books in a bookstore, legitimately, not because I talked to a books dealer or book owner, store owner or something, and they're putting them in there. But because someone was like, oh, I hear this is a really good book, or oh, these sell really well, I want to get these books there. So it's a drag, but it's also, by not being limited by having theatrical release, there are a lot more options to get your product out to the world, and that's a heck of a powerful thing. Again, filmmakers are kind of in my boat where there's 1 million self-published authors now. So I have to compete with 1 million different voices, 1 million different people. That's my job. I'd rather have that than not be able to put books out at all. Because publishers are worse than the film studios, because they literally are focused on a narrow spectrum. So I get it with filmmakers, because they're in the same boat where it's like you've got to hit the road and promote and sell and be on socials. And I hit a point where I don't want to anymore. I got to figure out a way to do it, but I'm tired of selling my books and myself anymore. I'm just tired of it, which isn't fair to the books, but I mean, that's where I'm at. But it's not fair to blame a genre of film for the lack of what's coming out. Much like I'm not going to blame the Fast and Furious franchise because whatever movie didn't come out, or anything else. Like, it stinks when like damages one another. When, say, a big budget horror film comes out and they bungle it, and well, shucks, and it's weird because I like it, but the newest Mummy movie, I actually enjoy it. I thought it was a fun movie. I liked it. But that movie unraveled the dark universe that they were trying to build, where they were going to have this connected universe with the monsters. I don't know. That was a great idea to begin with. Whatever. But that movie was responsible because it just didn't do well enough and people just weren't into it. Had that movie hit, had it made it kind of money or huge box office, we would be several films deep in this connected universe, spin-offs, all this kind of crazy stuff. And people be happy or sad about that. And truly, movies are kind of up to the whim of the people. If you read interviews about, from James Cameron, he did not know if Titanic was going to hit. He put all this money into it, all this time. It was a big cost, and it's a big risk. And if the people had just had no interest, if they're just like, why do I care about this? This is a long movie. It's depressing. I just don't care. And it tanked. It's lost to history. I mean, it's just another big movie that, it's a Kingdom of Heaven, or not Kingdom of Heaven, Gates of Heaven, which is an 80s movie that was same kind of a thing. Big budget, big production, Western. And that was very kind of dark and tanked and kind of forgotten to time. Maybe the same thing. And it happens all the time. They're saying now that, oh gosh, Spielberg's, oh my gosh, I can't think of the name of his darn movie. His musical that just came out, and it's a remake of a old musical. Oh, it's a bomb. It's a bomb. But the critics love it. And it's a matter of we're in COVID. We're still in COVID. People aren't going to the movies like they used to. And maybe people are just not into musicals right now. There's times, too, where, like, if it came out a year ago, or 5 years from now, or 10 years ago, if it came out the right time, it would make a huge box office. That's the way the wheel spins, and it's crazy. I hear, there's music I like that I'll hear songs once in a while. I'm like, man, how did this not hit? Like, how did this not hit and just get big? A million different reasons, and they're all valid, and it is what it is. And that's just them's the breaks. I'll always kind of love the superhero genre. I'm still dying to see the new Spider-Man and have mostly been spoiler free so far. Hooray. I love the shows that on Disney Plus have been great. I enjoy all of them. They've been really fun. They are, they're going to hit a point where they're not as good. My guess is when Kevin Feige finally steps away, you may see that, or if Disney's like, we're going to change tracks and whatever. But for the moment, and you can only enjoy it the moment, I'm enjoying them. I'm having fun with them. I like the heck out of them. And I'm happy we have them. And like I say, if it's not your shtick, if your thing is romantic movies, you have a Hallmark channel and other channels for those. If it's horror and you only want horror films, there's channels and streaming services for that. Anything you are into, there's a way to see just that. But to sit there and bemoan how superhero movies are destroying cinema and film and you're bored and is just the most selfish, like self-involved, silly stance you can have. And it says more about the person saying it than it does about that genre. I'm Chris. I don't know. We'll see if I do another one before the end of the year. If I don't, you have a great new year. Be safe. Take care. Try to keep COVID clear. It's a miserable thing. Take care. If you want to know more about me or the podcast or anything else, spookychris.com. You find all my books on Amazon. See ya.